Hi, I'm C.C. Péan, and this is Reclaiming Your Health. Hey y'all, how are you? I gotta get this out of the shot. How do I do this? How are you? Excited to be here today. I've got a great recipe that we're gonna work on. I'm so excited because this is a raw dish, but it is a dish that is so complex. There's so much going on in it. You will be eating an abundance of vegetables and nutrient-dense things, and you won't even know that it's raw. A lot of people hear raw and they're turned off. And I'm here to show you how to make a delicious meal that is raw and good for you. So last week I rushed and we had time at the end. So I'm going to take my time. And if we have time at the end, you all feel free to ask questions. You can ask questions all the way through, but especially at the end, feel free to ask questions. So there are a few things that are really unique about this dish. One of them is a main ingredient in this dish is kelp noodles. This is very interesting because kelp noodles are actually made from kelp. They're made from seaweed. What they do is they take the inner part of the seaweed, they turn it in, they dry it and make it into a powder. Then they combine it with sodium alginate, which is a thickener, something like that, an emulsifier. And then they form it into noodles. So what's great about this is that when you eat sea vegetables, things like kelp, it's really great for thyroid health. Also, it's great for your metabolism. And the third thing is this package right here with 4 servings is 3 calories per serving. This is 12 calories, y'all. 12 calories. Yummy, good for you. You're going to lose weight. How can you go wrong with that? So this is one of the key ingredients for tonight's dish. The other key ingredients are going to be zucchini. I even have a yellow squash here just to add a little more color and flavor and texture to it. And if you followed the page and you got the things that I told you to pick up, you picked up a spiruli. Now, you can have a spiruli. Some of you have handheld tools that could be used to make these noodles. I really love this because it comes with 3 different types of blades. So today we're going to be using the larger blade. But when you purchase the spiruli, which can be purchased at Bed Bath & Beyond or online, it was like 25 bucks. In addition to that blade, it comes with a finer blade, similar to that of like angel hair pasta. So the one that we're using today is more like linguine or fettuccine. This one is for a much finer, spiral. So this is like angel hair. And then this one here is like if you're making potato fries or something like that, you want like those big curly fries type of thing, that's what you would use for this. So it's a great buy because it has those 3 different things in it, 3 different blades, and it's plastic, so it's super easy to keep clean, and you can throw it in your dishwasher. And what's also cool about it is it actually has, if I can get it up, because what I'm talking about has it stuck. It has suction cups at the bottom. So that means when you're using it, it's going to stay stuck to your counter. So it helps in your ability to really spiralize your veggies. Okay. So number 1 bomb ingredient, number 1 bomb tool. And so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to get these kelp noodles ready. Now, kelp noodles are great, but you have to work with them. When you take them out of this package, they're almost like chewing on plastic, I would say. They're super, look at this. They're kind of weird. But through the magic of food science, we are going to soften them so that they take on more of a noodle-like texture. So how do we do that? We're going to take a bowl. If we do the side camera now, we're going to take a bowl. We're going to put these noodles in a bowl. You can rinse them. It depends. Different brands have, some of them have like a flavored water or something like that in it. So I just like to wash them off. Okay, so I'm going to rinse them off. Then I'm going to cover them. I'm going to cover them with water. Cover them with water. Now watch what happens. We're going to use baking soda and lemon juice. It creates a chemical reaction that is going to soften these noodles. So I'm going to add, this is like a half a tablespoon of baking soda. I'm going to sprinkle it over that and then watch what happens. About a quarter cup of lemon juice. Do you see that? You see what happened there? It's fizzing. So you just go in there and you just move it around. And you do that until it gets to the texture that you want it to be. Some people like it al dente. Some people like it really soft. I'm just going to let this sit in this solution for a few minutes because I don't like chewy noodles. Okay, so that's step one. Now we're going to go back to our front camera and we are going to work on our noodles, our zucchini noodles. Now you can do zucchini noodles, you can do carrot noodles. One of the challenges though with using a spiralizer is that you've got to have the right size zucchini. So I look for the largest zucchini I can find because it has to be able to attach to the end of this thing here and to the front of this. So what you're going to see, and we can go back and forth from the side to the front camera. I've got my zucchini placed in here, and I'm just going to, if you see that on the side there, so part of what's happening is what I told you is that one of the challenges of making this is that if your zucchini is not big enough, you're not going to really get those ribbon type spirals. But the good thing about this dish is it may not be as pretty, but it's still going to be delicious and it still works. So I'm going to take that off. I'm going to keep going. Maybe we'll have better luck with our next zucchini. Okay, so we've got a few, see that? We've got a few coming out. So again, I would encourage you when you're making this to try to find the biggest zucchinis you can. Okay, so our zucchini is done. And now we're going to use some of our yellow squash. I'm going to use the large end is going to go onto the base. And here we go. Okay, so these are coming out better because my yellow squash is larger. So We've got some interesting shreds coming out here. Now, another thing you all can do, if you're not so crazy about the raw thing, you can always just quickly kind of like toss this with a little bit of olive oil in a frying pan and just take a little bit of that rawness off. To be honest with you, there's some people who really, their digestive system cannot manage raw foods, a lot of fiber in raw. So if you can't, then just, adapt this to your liking. Okay, so now let's jump back. So we've got these noodles done. Now let's jump back to the noodles that are in that solution. And now look at that. Wow. So what we're gonna do, put it in a strainer or colander, and we're going to rinse it off. You've gotta rinse off all of that baking soda and lemon juice because it will continue to break it down and you will end up with mush. So you've got to make sure you get rid of all of that solution. Okay, so that's done. We're going to swirl it around a little bit. Make sure we get all of our water off, but look at that. So I'm going to come back to the front camera and I want you to see what we've got. Look at that. We did that for probably about 4 to 5 minutes, I would say total. See that? Isn't that amazing? This is seaweed. It's from seaweed. Now, one of the things you can do to add an extra level of flavor to this, if you're not making this dish right away and you want to prep this beforehand, you can use a little bit of soy sauce, you can use a little bit of sesame oil, and just stir it up in here and let it sit because it will actually absorb some of the flavor. So that's another thing that you can do. But we're just doing it on the fly tonight. I wanted you all to see how this was prepared. You're welcome. So yeah, this is great. Now, one of the things you may want to do, you may want to cut it up because these noodles are really long. I like to kind of keep them this way because it helps with my ability to swirl them and give them height on the plate and things like that. But it's really up to your pleasure. Okay, so we've got these noodles done. I'm just going to transfer these to a bowl now. And we've got our zucchini noodles done. So we've got our zucchini and squash noodles done, and we've got our kelp noodles done. So now we are going to move on to the thing that makes this dish amazing. Now, let me tell you, I have made numerous variations of this dish using the same base of the kelp noodles and the squash and zucchini. Did I tell you all what the name of this dish is? I forgot to tell you, this is called rasta, raw pasta. And in addition to it being called rasta because it's raw pasta, it is kind of like an homage to Jamaican Rastafari culture because they eat itao, they eat vegan, they eat food from the earth that's healthy and clean and pure. And so this is what inspired me to make this dish. Okay, so now that you know what my inspiration is, as I was saying, this base of zucchini noodles and squash and kelp noodles can be interpreted numerous ways. I have made this with a raw tomato sauce. You can just take some Roma tomatoes, some dates, fresh garlic, and you put that in your food processor and you just, you run your food processor till it comes almost like a puree, and you can toss that with fresh basil and and some more tomatoes, some more fresh tomatoes and spinach and things like that. It's delicious. You can also do this with like an avocado cream. You can use avocado and cucumber and put it in a blender, add your seasonings, and it makes a nice creamy sauce. So there are many ways to interpret this dish, to make this dish. Are we at 24 minutes already? Oh, okay. I thought I was running out of time running my mouth. Okay, so now we're going to make this sauce. This thing that I talked about being so great sticking on the counter is creating a problem. All right, so now we're going to make this sauce. This sauce is busy, busy bomb. So in this sauce, did you all get your ingredients? Are you cooking along with me, or are you just being, what is it called? Not observant, voyeuristic. So we have agave. My niece is laughing at me. We have agave. We have toasted sesame oil. We have low sodium soy sauce. We have peanut butter. We have orange juice. And we have some crushed red pepper flakes. Now, if you have an issue with peanuts, you can use almond butter. You can use cashew butter. You can use tahini. Any of the nut butters work with this combination here. I love peanuts. I think it has something to do with my West African heritage. I love peanut stew. I love suya. I love everything that has peanuts in it. So I love this sauce, and I love texture. So, hey, Joy. So I actually use crunchy peanut butter because when this is mixed in, I like those little pieces of peanut. Okay, Yolande. I like those little pieces of peanut. Sometimes I even use crushed peanuts over top after I've mixed it all together. So our first component that we're going to put in our bowl is about a quarter cup of peanut butter. A quarter cup of peanut butter. We are going to add about a tablespoon of agave. We're going to add our sesame oil. We're going to add our soy sauce. This is actually ginger and garlic in here. We're going to add that. And I'm going to add my orange juice, just a little bit of it. I love the orange juice because the orange juice adds that citrus freshness to it. And so with my whisk, I'm going to carefully start to mix this. Now, a faster way of doing this would be to put it like in a NutriBullet or in a blender. You could do that, which I may do in a minute. But you just mix this. Starting to break down. This is a good workout for my arms. So you see that coming together there. So you can add water depending on the thickness that you want this sauce to be. I tend to like it on the thicker end because when it's thicker, it really clings to the noodles, right? So you see that's probably about a minute or maybe a minute and a half of whisking. I'm going to add a little more orange juice to this. I have some water to thicken it if I felt like I needed to thicken it, but I think that this is good. And all I need to do now is taste test it. So let's see if I need anything to add to this. That's yummy. That is perfect. And once we add our red pepper flakes, it's going to add that heat. So we've got some saltiness, we've got some sweetness to it. We've got the texture, the creamy peanut butter, but then we have the little crunches of the nuts in there. This is going to be fantabulous. So while I clean up a little bit, why don't we share a little bit about my background and who I am and why I do what I do.
Hi, it's C.C., foodie, media contributor, and plant-based chef. Cooking is my love language, and every dish I cook is a love letter to the African diaspora and the world of food. As a chef, I have cooked for celebrities, professional athletes, and media executives. I have been featured domestically and internationally on The Today Show and on Ghana's #1 morning show, New Day. I've traveled the world researching plant-based foods and their inclusion in local diets. My passion is cooking, talking about, and exposing others to plant-based cooking through the lens of Africa and all the cultures that have come from it. I like to say that I cook incredibly delicious food that just so happens to be good for you. I would love to bring you along as I take a plant-based journey through the African diaspora and the world of food. Won't you join me?
Oh my God, that is unreal.
Isn't that good?
That is unreal.
Oh my God, isn't that wonderful?
That is unreal.
And it's totally healthy.
Hey, we're back. Okay, so does anybody have any questions? I know Yolanda's driving, but does anybody else have any questions about this dish that we're cooking? Any questions about kelp noodles? Any general questions about anything that I'm doing, plant-based eating and cooking, the African diaspora and its contribution to the world of food? Any of those things I would love to chat with you about. So any questions, just pop them up on the screen. Come on down to Tampa, I've got you guys. Well, so I am going to put on gloves because this can be a little messy. You could also use tongs, of course. But one of the things that I often say is in addition to cooking food that tastes great and is good for you, most importantly, we want it to be beautiful. So what I have done this evening is I have arranged some baby spinach on a plate. This is how I would suggest that you serve something like this. You could do it like this. You could do it in a bowl. Now, great question, Joy. If you want to make this dish, keep everything separate. You should only mix the sauce on when you're ready to eat it because the noodles aren't bad. The kelp noodles aren't bad, but the zucchini noodles and the squash noodles will begin to spring water and it'll become like a wet mess. So what I would do is if I mix all of these things that you're going to see me mix in a moment, I would keep my sauce on the side. I would put that on a container on the side, a little lid, and right before I eat it, I would pour it over my noodles and mix it all up. So that's the only downside of making noodles from zucchini because it does give off a lot of water. So any other questions? No? Okay. So let us begin with mixing together everything. So let's do an overhead shot so you can see what's going to go into this rasta pasta. We have some carrot shreds, and I shared with you earlier that you could also You could also spiralize the carrots. We've got some cilantro because cilantro is great for taking metals out of your body. We've got some red cabbage. We've got some scallions. We've got some beautiful microgreens to make it pretty at the end. And then we also have some julienne basil because I want that flavor to knock you all upside your head from every angle. So the first thing we're going to put in our bowl is we're going to put a handful of these. They actually look like shavings, okay, of our squash and our yellow squash and our zucchini. Then we're going to do a handful or so of our kelp noodles. We're going to take a good handful of our carrots. We're going to put our cilantro up in here. We've got our cabbage. We've got our scallions. Look at how beautiful that looks. Remember, we're eating the rainbow. We've talked about that, eat the rainbow. And so I'm gonna mix all those things now together. All right. And then the final thing that I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take some of my sauce. Ooh-wee. And I am going to mix it into this. You can use as little or as much sauce as you want. This sauce is very well seasoned, so you don't have to use a lot. A little is going to go a long way, but I'm greedy, so I'm going to use a little more. All right. So we've got this mixed up, and now all we have to do is plate it on our beautiful plate of mixed greens. And I just like twirl it around my hand, and I'm going to place it right in the center of this plate. See what I did there? Just going to put a little more on top. And then I sprinkle it with the red pepper flakes, which is optional. And I know I'm running out of time, but the last thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add some avocado to this because I love avocado. And my cutting board is in the sink, so I'm going to do this. Forgive me. I'm going to put some avocado on here, right on the side, like so. And the last thing that we're going to do is put some beautiful microgreens on it. And these are kale, these are micro kale greens. So there you go, people. This is our rasta. Kelp and zucchini noodles with a spicy peanut sauce. We've got a side of avocado there. We've got our microgreens and some red pepper flakes. Delicious food that just so happens to be good for you. That's what I do. Thank you for joining me this evening. Next week, we're going to be making lion's wings. Those are lion's mane mushrooms, deep fried. We're going to be a little decadent next week. Deep fried and then slathered with a delicious buffalo sauce that actually has a touch of gochujang, which is a Korean pepper paste. Thank you for joining me.